Welcome to the Fun with Friends podcast, hosted by me, Allie, featuring my friends. What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Fun with Friends podcast, quarantine episode 3. I'm your host, Allie. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. I hope everyone is, as always, hanging in there, staying safe and staying healthy, and that you are all finding ways to keep yourselves entertained. In today's episode, which it will probably be a fairly short episode, I will be talking about a virtual Stitch and Bitch that I hosted back towards the beginning of the quarantine. So I think this was maybe a month or a month and a half into the quarantine when I hosted this. So I'd like to share kind of a little bit of my experience with hosting a virtual Stitch and Bitch. And then I've also have a couple of messages, voicemail from friends that also attended, which you know all of them. We've got a message from Katie, Holly, Julie, and Tara, and they have all been on the podcast before. So I'm always thankful when they decide to participate and that I haven't scared them away yet with constantly begging them to come on the podcast with me. A little history on our Stitch and Bitches, or you can call it a craft and chat if you like. But we actually used to do these in person when we could, and unfortunately it kind of fallen off a bit because of everyone's work schedules and just, folks not having enough bandwidth to participate in things like this like we used to. But the office that I used to work in has a lot of really crafty women, which is amazing. So we used to organize these get-togethers where we would, go to someone's house. We'd have wine and cheese and snacks and wonderful food. And we would sit around, and at that time we were all knitters. So we would just sit around and we would knit and we would talk and drink wine, and it was just a fantastic time. And there were, I think at one time, probably like 8 or like between 6 to 8 of us that would participate in those. And again, it was just a really fun time to kind of get together with coworkers outside of work and all do something that we enjoyed, which was knitting. It's actually the reason why I learned how to knit, because the first time I participated in one of these Stitch and Bitches was when we all got together for the first Women's March. And this group, they were getting together to knit hats to wear to the march, but then to also hand out at the march. And I wanted to be a part of that. And unfortunately at that time I didn't know how to knit, but I went anyways and participated as best I could. So it was kind of I think I made the ears on the hats maybe. I can't quite remember. It seems so long ago. But that was kind of my first taste of like a craft get together, and I loved it. And so I started knitting after attending that first kind of get together. And I actually took a few classes. There's a yarn and fabric store here in Alexandria called Fiber Space, and they do a lot of various classes. So I took a brioche class, which is an insanely, well, to me, it was an insanely hard style, I guess, of knitting where you're using 2 different yarns, and it has a really cool effect when it's done, but it's so complicated. And I had just started knitting like maybe a month before that and was definitely not ready to take such a hard class. But all of that kind of came out of the Women's March and our group of ladies getting together to make hats for that. And then it just kind of evolved into this get together that we would do as much as we could. And yeah, it was just really fun. And I kind of, took off with knitting, and it became something that I really loved and kind of I still love knitting. I don't do it as much as I used to, but anyway, I thought doing kind of a virtual craft night or a virtual stitch and bitch would be fun to kind of see everyone and get together and learn more about what people were working on. It's also, it was a little different than the typical virtual happy hours that folks had been holding, where they were just getting together and staring at each other through a Zoom and drinking. So I thought I'd see how it went if we had some crafts to also kind of keep us entertained while we were drinking, and also kind of chat and catch up with everyone. So that's what I did. And before I tell you a little bit more about our craft night, we're going to take a little break. If you're like me and you're just getting started with podcasting, it can be scary and overwhelming. That's why Anchor is such a great choice. It's one of the easiest ways to make a podcast, and best of all, it's free. It also has great creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Another great feature of Anchor is that they'll distribute your podcast for you. Your listeners will be able to access your podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many others. You can also make money from your podcast using Anchor, and that's with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place, and it's easy to use. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. All right, so a little bit more about our first annual quarantine stitch and bitch. So I went ahead and set up a Zoom call, which that might have been the hardest part for me because I'm not the most technically savvy individual, and technology is hard sometimes. So believe it or not, I had some trouble figuring out how to use Zoom. But I did eventually, so yay me. Figured it out, got it set up, and created our virtual stitch and bitch, and started sending out invites to folks. And I think I actually sent the invite to like 16 or 17 people that are in our friend group. And out of those, I think we had 15 that attended, so it was awesome. It was so amazing. And I think the things I enjoyed the most was, again, just getting to see all the different crafts that were going on. I also made a request. We had a couple of rules at the beginning of the meeting. One of them was that if you have a pet, you must, at some point in the meeting, show everyone your pet. And then the second request was that we kind of go around, introduce ourselves, and show the group what we're working on, because I did invite a few friends that did not know everyone within the friend groups. So we kind of went around, I called out names, through the Zoom, and had people introduce themselves and share some of their crafts. So that is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to give you a rundown of some of the crafts that people were doing. So we had someone that was doing embroidery, which I've never done. It looks fun. It looks like something that I could do, if that makes sense. Like, I'm sure it's difficult, but it looks like it's something that I could actually do and follow a pattern and create something. So maybe I will give that a try. But yes, Tara was doing some embroidery. Yeah, she's pretty badass at it. I've seen some of her other stuff that she's done. Like, she did a Krampus thing. That's super cool, super fun. Heather was doing, she was actually learning how to crochet. So that's something, our group is, we're all primarily knitters. I think one or two people in our group have tried crocheting before or know how to crochet, but yeah, not a whole lot of crocheters in the group. So that was fun to kind of watch her figure out how to do it. She was just learning how, and was practicing on creating, I think, like some type of little critter she was crocheting. One of our other friends was coloring, it was like a wallpaper kind of design and a coloring book. And she's actually in a coloring club where it's a group of people and they color pages out of whatever coloring book they have, and then they send them to different members of the coloring club. I believe is how it goes. So it's kind of like a pen pal coloring group, and I didn't know that those existed. And I think that's pretty freaking sweet. Like, I don't know. I love getting mail, and I like the idea of kind of getting artwork through the mail from a complete stranger who also likes to color. So that was really cool, and it was really fun kind of hearing about that and finding out that that was something that actually existed. We had someone else that was working on some beads, making some jewelry, and Katie was playing doctor to some of her dog's stuffed animals. So she was stitching them back together, creating little Frankenstein dog toys. So that was amusing to watch as well. And I did a sticker by number thing, I guess. Like paint by number but with stickers. Really enjoy doing those. I think they're actually called maybe like art by number or something like that. Paint by sticker. That's what it is. Paint by sticker. So I did one of those, and it was a little fox. So I really like the paint by stickers because they're simple. And I literally just have to put the sticker where the number is. And I love stickers. I have an entire box of them. Some people do bullet journals. I like to use stickers to journal things out. And yeah, give me a sticker, I'm a happy lady. I mean, that's it. It was overall like a super fun experience. But before I continue, here are Katie, Holly, and Julie's thoughts on the virtual Stitch and Bitch.
Hey, Allie, it's Katie. I just wanted to say thanks so much for scheduling and hosting our Stitch and Bitch with, a bunch of great ladies that you know in your life. I did not know a lot of them, but it was really nice to see the faces of the people I've heard in the podcast and folks that I know are, going out and doing adventures and all those kinds of things with you. So thanks so much, and I hope to see your face soon again. And, yeah. Hope everybody out there is staying sane and crafting and, just finding little joy. So, all right. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.
I really enjoyed doing the Zoom Stitch and Bitch on Saturday night. I thought it was a nice change from the FaceTimes that we've been doing a lot during this pandemic. With old friends or recent friends or just friends, family. Um, those are more intimate and they take a lot more energy from you. I think being in person with people, for me at least, it's less taxing than being on a FaceTime call. But I felt like the Zoom Stitch and Bitch was nice because there were enough people that we didn't really have to talk if we didn't want to. We could just listen and do our crafts, and I don't know, I just thought it was a nice night, and if you wanted to chime in at something, you could. And I felt like the group was also really important too, the group that we had, because nobody dominated the conversation, which I thought was really, perfect.
Hey, this is Julie. So I really loved the virtual Stitch and Bitch. I really thought it was an interesting way to have something tangible to do while on the virtual happy hour instead of just sitting there staring at the computer screen. Not that I don't enjoy seeing my friends, but doing something tangible with my hands I thought was really great, as well as getting to hear about all the other art projects that people were working on and learning about new things that I didn't know about. Like, you can be part of a coloring club where you color like from a coloring book and then you forward it along to somebody else in the group. I thought that was really kind of cool. Something that was the same on all of the virtual happy hours was my cat Clementine running across the screen and showing her ass. So, more of the same there. But overall, I would definitely do the Stitch and Bitch again. Loved it.
And lastly, here is Tara's voice message, which I feel like completely embodies everything that all of us are feeling during this time, which is that time no longer matters and a lot of us don't know where we are anymore. So enjoy.
Listen, Allie, I've lost all track of time and maybe space being quarantined alone in my apartment for so long. 3 weeks? 4? I can't tell. I don't remember necessarily which night was the Stitch and Bitch. I do have evidence that I stitched, probably bitched, but still, I'm pretty sure it was fun. But I did drink a lot of wine out of a box. Maybe it was yesterday or 5 days ago. Not sure. I'll do it again though.
So again, I think Tara's perfectly summed up a lot of what all of us are feeling right now as we've been stuck inside of our homes and have lost all sense of time and reality and are just trying to find new ways to stay busy and to stay entertained. So I hope that everyone that is listening to the podcast is being able to do that. It can be quite the challenge, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to try to do the virtual Stitch and Bitch. So Julie and Holly in our friend group have been doing a lot of really great kind of virtual game nights and happy hours and trivia nights, and so I'm really hoping that I can, maybe sit down with them on a Zoom call and hear more about how they've kind of arranged those and how they set them up and share that information with listeners in case you guys are, interested in trying to organize your own virtual game night. There seem to be a lot of like great options out there for folks that are looking to do some virtual fun things. But I really liked doing a virtual craft night and a virtual Stitch and Bitch because it was something that a lot of us had been participating in before the quarantine and was something that I kind of missed that our friend group did. So it was really a good time. And I think one of the things I enjoyed the most was that there wasn't a lot of pressure to talk because we all had things to kind of hold our attention. So there wasn't any like awkward silence or like a feeling that like someone had to entertain the rest of the group. So it was really nice to just kind of have, conversation flow naturally while also being able to like just sit back and focus on whatever you were crafting on. So that was really nice. And I think I liked that better than kind of the normal virtual happy hour just because again, it kind of allows you to focus on something else and not necessarily feel like you have to talk. And then of course, biggest plus, I guess, or the biggest pro was just being able to see everyone and hear how they were doing and catch up with them, see their crafts, see their animals, which for me was maybe the highlight of the entire thing. So I was in it for the animals, to be honest. So it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. And we haven't done another one yet, but I am hopeful that perhaps in the future we can do another virtual Stitch and Bitch and catch up on how everyone's crafts are progressing. So that's it for this episode. As I promised, it's a little short and sweet. I don't know if there will be an episode in 2 weeks or not. I'm trying to find new fun virtual things to do. I might try to start recording some of our Zoom shenanigans and maybe posting those videos on YouTube or something just to kind of add another layer to this and another layer of entertainment, hopefully. That way you can start putting faces to names. And yeah, we'll see. I definitely am going to try to have another episode out soon, but it's a little difficult just being quarantined. I also have a lot of fun things happening in my life that I will definitely talk about on the podcast in future episodes. But for right now, I'm kind of waiting to see how everything plays out. But there's definitely some change coming, and I'm working on a lot of really awesome things. And it's taking up a lot of kind of my brain space and my time, which makes it a little difficult to podcast as much as I want to. But yeah, I'm super, super excited to share that with you guys when it gets to a point where I can, because everything kind of ties into what I've been doing with the podcast. So yeah, there's exciting things on the way that I really can't wait to share. But in the meantime, you can definitely go back and listen to some other episodes. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Just put the podcast on Stitcher. So if you use Stitcher, we're on there now. Definitely listen to it. And if you have any suggestions for things that I should try that I can do virtually, any tours, or I don't know, if there are fun virtual games that you can kind of like play with your friends that aren't Animal Crossing, like, let me know. You can send me a DM, you can shoot me an email, any of that. So yeah, let me know if you have any suggestions for things that we should try out. There you have it. Thanks as always for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to tune in for the next one. And if you are looking for some entertainment or you're bored, I highly recommend going back and listening to some of our previous episodes. You can follow the Fun with Friends podcast on Instagram at Fun with Friends Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at FunFriendsPod1. We are also on Facebook. You can listen to the podcast on Anchor FM, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. As always, please like, rate, and review, and be sure to tell your friends about the podcast and get the word out there about it. And as always, my friends, go out there, try something new, and have some fucking fun. Bye!